Hey guys, welcome to She Knows Arsenal. My name is Jessica and I'm your host, and you can follow me on Twitter at It's Chesino. On today's show, we're going to be kind of talking about in the international break, international games. That's the theme for this. Honestly, I think I'm about ready for international break to be over, but we'll talk about some of the hot topics kind of going around about, the international games and things like that. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. We are live. All right, guys, so I'm going to go ahead and bring in my guests. Today I have GOONER SULZ and DJ Harry. Hey, guys, how are you?
As good as it can be. After looking at your backdrop, I feel miserable.
I'm good. Jess's backdrop is nice, but we've had some sun in London today as well, so it's been quite nice.
Yeah, Manchester's been nice, to be fair as well.
Yeah, I'd say nice, like 16 degrees, I think, but that's pretty good for over here, Jess. I know you're probably sitting on about 25 degrees at the moment, aren't you?
Well, I'm trying to do the conversion in my head. I'm like, okay, so what is that in Fahrenheit? But I'm thinking it's like 70, maybe 75. I'm not sure. I've actually never been to London, or, I haven't been to London when it was warm, if I'm honest. And I've been many different times of the year, and I'm just like, dang, you get like 1 or 2 hours of sun and then that it's gone, So I mean, London is a beautiful city and I do like the UK, but I love my California weather. I can't lie, I can't lie, but yeah. So are we over the international break? Have we had a good international break? How do you guys feel? I know Harry was saying that, he's going to take a break from Arsenal talk during the international break, but that didn't necessarily go as planned, did it?
No, it didn't. I do miss watching Arsenal, though. I don't get too excited when England play. I have to be honest. I find it really hard to get too attached because I just find it just a little bit boring to watch sometimes. England don't really get me out of my seat as much. So I've been watching the games. You want England to win, obviously. I want England to do well, but the games always feel like a little bit routine. Just the game against San Marino, you feel like that could have been like a 6, 7, 8-0. You feel like, why can't we just go and absolutely pepper them? I know we did pepper them, but why can't we translate that into goals? And then the game the other day was, a solid 2-0 win. So it's been good to watch England in that respect, but I can't wait to have Arsenal back, in all honesty. I miss it.
What about you, SULZ? How have you been feeling during this international break? Are you ready for Arsenal to come back, or you need another extended international break?
Oh, no, I'm always going to look forward to Arsenal playing, whether it's the men's or the women's, and it's been brilliant. I mean, I was really looking forward to the under-21s, to be honest, the England team. Also, what got me excited, I was like, yes, we've finally got a squad that I can actually get behind. We're going to get into, obviously, the manager later, so I won't say too much, but I've been disappointed, I'm not going to lie. I've been very, very sort of... At the standard of English football at the moment, it's just not great in terms of management. It's not. I've not, even with the San Marino Albania. There's just so much poor performances, and that I just want to come back to Arsenal. At least that way, I know what I'm expecting. I just wasn't expecting these poor performances, I guess.
Yeah, for me, I spent a lot of the time focusing on the U.S. men. They played quite a bit of games, the full team and also the youth team that was trying to qualify for the Olympics. We did not do that. It was a big failure for us. But, I did spend some of the time watching the England under-21. So we will get to that. I was disappointed, just like you, SULZ, but I'm sure you guys have a little bit more insight to why that may be. We can talk about that. But, I put out a poll yesterday about Lewandowski and Harry Kane, who's the better striker. When I did my match preview for the North London Derby, I had spoken to Abby Summers, and she said that Harry Kane was the best striker in Europe, and she's obviously a Spurs fan. But I was just thinking to myself, are there actually football, people that love football that believe this, that Harry Kane is the best striker in Europe? And is there a valid argument to make for him maybe being in that category? And as Arsenal fans, we probably have, the tendency to just, just bat it away and say, no, of course not. He can never be. But I think there's some valid arguments about why he may be one of the best strikers in Europe, if not the best. So we will talk about that. And I just kind of want to maybe throw it to you, SULZ. Where do you land here in this conversation from an unbiased kind of just football? Where do you think? What do you think about this?
It's such a difficult one to answer because Kane's developed his game into something that I kind of seen it happen. What I've always said is Harry Kane is now looking like the Wayne Rooney of the modern day in terms of he's getting further away from the goal, but still getting those goals in. I think he's gonna convert himself into a cam and then come to midfielder, especially as his career develops due to injuries and not being able to stay fit. And I think that's what Jose Mourinho's kind of gotten out of him. He's made him into a deep lying striker that's going to link the play up, but he can also then allow Son to drop back and then he goes further. That's why obviously the goals might have not been so goal scoring numbers haven't been great. But if you think about his assists, I reckon he's going to go and break the assist record for the Premier League. The way he's going, the way he started, and there's still 10 games to go and he's on 13 assists. He only needs, I think, another 8 or 9 to break that record. And I think it really comes down to kind of what are you judging them on? If you're talking about raw striking ability, Lewandowski is one of the best in the world, one of the best of all time at doing it. He's the most clinical striker in world football and arguably in the history of the game. His goal record is phenomenal. And I've always said that for me, Lewandowski right now is arguably one of the best players in the world, let alone a striker. He's crucial to the way Poland plays, crucial to the way Bayern Munich and their achievements in the Champions League. People are putting house bets on him scoring because that's how good he is. His goal ratio, just to kind of put it into perspective, this season alone, he's played in all competitions. He played 36 games and scored 42 goals. I can't remember the last time someone's had more goals and appearances as a striker. It's been very, very long time. You're looking at your Ronaldos and your Messis doing that. If you look at the league in 25 games, he scored 35 and assisted 6. It's phenomenal. Like, he is out and out one of the best goal-scoring players I think I've seen in a very long time, and he's rivaling your Messis and your Ronaldos to those stats.
I'm looking at, their records this season, and both of them have very astounding records to me just this season, and such a strange season, as it is. Kane has 23 goals and 17 assists. That's legitimate, especially, in a team that lacks creativity. Harry, do you think that maybe Harry Kane has a lot more of a chance to be better than Lewandowski because of the type of team that he may play for? It's Lewandowski's playing with probably the best team in the world, one of the best teams in the world, versus playing with Spurs with no creativity, where he's essentially the striker and the creative midfielder. Does that need to be considered when we talk about, comparing the two?
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious to say Kane's all-round game is probably better. Like SULZ just said, he's developed into that number 10 as well as a goal scorer. Whether that's a tactical thing, I don't know. I don't know if he's trying to compensate for Spurs' lack of creativity. I don't know if he's just doing it because he knows he's got runners beyond him in Son and Moore and Bale sometimes. So it probably gives Lewandowski the edge in that respect. I think Kane's 28, is that right? Or is he 27?
He's 27, July 28th, he'll be 28, so he will be 28 this season.
And then, so obviously Lewandowski's, I think, 32. I mean, it's a really hard comparison to make because whilst they both play the same position, they are different players. But if I was to start a Champions League final tomorrow and you could give me one player, I would go with Lewandowski. But that's based on hypotheticals because I know what Lewandowski can do on the big stage. I don't know what Kane can do on the big stage. So hypothetically, if Kane could do it on the big stage, then I'd probably say, oh no, it's going to be Harry Kane. But I've never seen him do it on the big stage. And then I do wonder if there's an element of that as well. I'm not going to say it's a big fish in a little pond, but is there an element of that with Harry Kane? So he, performs above and beyond because he is the go-to man, because he can shoot from anywhere. He literally, for Spurs, he literally does shoot from any position on the pitch because he has that freedom to do that because, he's their main striker. So I wonder if he went to a Man City, would some of those goals be taken away, i.e. penalties and the long-range shots? Maybe he'll just be more of a poacher and, not get in the way of Kevin De Bruyne and Foden and Mahrez when he comes inside. So it's interesting, but they're great. And I know you want an unbiased opinion, but it's really hard when you talk about Harry Kane because I just can't stand him either. So it's really hard.
That's hilarious because I was talking to Dan Potts the other day and I was like, how do you go from utter disdain for this man, and then when he plays for England, he's the captain of the team? Like, that has to be like, I'm
it's
so
easy.
glad I
It's
don't have
easy.
that.
You know what? It's easy.
I don't know how he's captain.
I find it quite easy because I remember when I love watching England in the tournaments. It's everything. And when I was younger, I loved watching England throughout every single game, and especially the tournaments. It would grab me like no other. And I was never a fan of Gerrard's and Lampard's. I really disliked them. Even when Ashley Cole left for Chelsea, I found it really hard. But come the tournament, I think all of that just goes aside because it's just that togetherness, and you put that aside when you want them to win. But then in the same respect, if Harry Kane misses a sitter for England, then of course I'm gonna go in on him because he plays for Spurs. It's really hard to be impartial. Sorry.
Harry Kane talked about they had a quote from him where they were probing him about what's to come, in the summer transfer window for him, and he kind of just gave a vague answer, but didn't necessarily close the door, said that we would see in the summer. I think if they don't win the Europa League, he's out. I think he's going to try to go, but I can't really pinpoint a team.
Carabao Cup, you mean?
Oh yeah, they're not even in the Europa League anymore.
Did you do that on purpose?
I was thinking that. I was like, wait a minute. And
I think what I meant was if they don't get Champions League, they could still qualify through the league. Winning the Carabao Cup is not really enough of a trophy, I think, to sway him into thinking that they're on their way to winning things, per se. Mm-hmm. So, he said, we'll see what happens when we get to the summertime. Where could he potentially go? Harry Kane, to me, is the type that he's going to stay in England. I can't see him outside of the English Premier League. I'm sure that, maybe a team like Manchester United or even Man City would be interested. Do those seem like likely destinations for you, SULZ, or do you have another idea of where Harry Kane might fit in?
It's a strange one because for me, I don't think he'll fit in City. Personally, I just don't think he's that Pep Guardiola type player. I think more at United, just because of the style that they're looking to play, the sort of counter-attacking, kind of swinging balls into the box, especially when you're going to get Greenwood in the future. Obviously, you can develop Greenwood into the striker that United are looking to bring in. Then you've got Rashford on the wings. You're looking at getting Sancho in. I think Kane would suit that United system better than it would at City because I think he'd have to do too much. And unfortunately, with the sort of injury record that Kane holds, it'll be too demanding on him to play that centre-forward role. But yeah, I see him outside of Europe? It's a tough one because I just don't know where he'd go. I just don't know who needs a Kane right now, other than I don't even think City really need him. I think City are going to get Haaland. The only other team is probably Chelsea, but I just don't think Kane is one of those players that comes off to me as he probably wouldn't play for another London club unless it's Arsenal, just because of his sort of fan. Like he was a fan of the club since he was a kid and stuff. But yeah, I think he suits that. I think that's what United need, and if United get Kane, that's a big piece that they're missing that they've just added to their team. But City, I just don't see it happening for them.
Yeah, even like Velvishwan is saying like FSG by Kane, and I can't see him at Liverpool either. Like, I really think it's Manchester United or Spurs. Like, it really has. He stays there, but if he wants to be considered the best or have the type of career that you talk about for years to come, he has to win. He has to win trophies. Like, he has to win something. And as much as I can't stand him, I think he should be in a team that can facilitate that for him. He's 27 years old. And like Yo-Yo said, because of his injuries, he's an old 27-year-old. He doesn't have that much longer, in my opinion. I think he gets injured quite frequently. And he's even being protected by the refs, which is funny. I like that, Yo-Yo. But yeah, I don't see him anywhere but Manchester United. I think if he ended up there, that would be a problem for the league, like SULZ already said. What do you think the going price for Harry Kane would be? I'm hearing that Levy wouldn't sell him for anything less than 100 million, and I'm thinking, like, you're having a laugh. There's no way that anybody's going to spend that on a injury-prone 27-year-old, no matter how good he is.
Yeah, I mean, he's valued at £108 million on a lot of sort of transfer websites. And then even if you look at Lewandowski, he's actually not priced as high, which is quite strange for the reasonings, obviously, of his age and everything. Like you said, Jess, like, because of his injuries, I would be very surprised if someone's going to pay 110 million or 100 million pounds, or even in that region with someone of his injury records. I don't even understand why someone would personally, why a club would even want to look at him.
Yeah. Harry, what do you think?
In terms of transfer fee, it's hard with this market. You feel like that will affect the big transfers, but in the same token, when you're talking about these A-star players, you assume their fee would still stay the same. I imagine it would be more around the 80 million mark. I think it depends on how much of a fuss Harry Kane kicks up as to where he will go. If Levy plays hardball, I think his loyalty to Spurs might disappear, and he might consider other clubs like Chelsea and whatnot. You got to remember he's from Chingford, which is kind of East London, Essex. He's all of his friends are here, all of his family here, his girlfriend or his wife is from this area. So it's going to take a lot for them to up and leave, this side of London. The only club that I think he should consider to go into is Man City. I think every other club is a risk. I think Liverpool are in a possibly in a period of transition. That's TBC, but it feels like it might be, a time for them to refresh their groups. There's no guarantees that they'll challenge. I feel like Man United is a really strange one, because I don't think any player goes and thinks, oh, I want to go play for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think they want to play for Man United. And if Man United are almost going to play real-life Football Manager and sign all the best players, then it would be a good move for Kane, because he could be that missing piece in the jigsaw. But I think he will think, I've spent 5-6 years at Spurs where I haven't won trophies. This move has to almost guarantee me a trophy. He can't be at a club that's competing for the title. And the only club that is almost guarantees a Premier League trophy at the moment, you feel, is City. So that's the only place I can see him going. And with regards to style of play, I agree, but I think Aguero struggled initially under Pep, or Pep had to kind of convince Aguero to become this more of a pressing forward, which he wasn't really. So I think Kane can probably adapt his game to fit in. I think essentially if he just becomes a penalty box striker, he'll still score a lot of goals at City. I think he's too good to be dictated by a system or style of play. I think he'd score goals wherever. But yeah, it's a really tough one. I don't see Chelsea happening. I don't understand the Man United one, to be honest. I just feel like I know they're second in the league at the moment, but I just don't think that guarantees Harry Kane anything. I feel
That's
like
very true. He would want to make sure that he can win trophies, and as I think Manchester United is one of those teams that got a good run in the beginning of the season. They have enough quality where they can kind of bumble their way into the top four, because they have amazing quality. I always say, like, we don't want Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to leave, because any coach that comes in that has any more, that's better than him will be able to get a better tune out of these players, because they have world-class talent on their roster, but if the rumors are true that they're giving him a new contract, or they've given him a new deal, they're doubling down on Ole Gunnar. I think that's also probably because he's not going to make as big of a fuss about not getting transfer funds. Once they get into the top four, they don't want to spend as much money. So knowing that Ole Gunnar is going to be the coach, and knowing that they're not really going to be spending that much money now they're in Champions League may make Kane think twice about doing something like that. So you really have Chelsea, Man City, Yo-Yo saying Juve, Madrid. I mean, it's just so up in the air because I don't think there's any perfect fit for him, but I guess we'll just see in the summer what happens. But I think I
just don't think. I think as long as Pep is at City, I just don't see Kane coming in. He's just not like, even at Barcelona and Bayern, like Kane is just not the striker that Pep would typically want to go on, especially not that kind of money anyway. He's going to look at the situation with Aguero thinking, well, I've already got an injured striker. If that's what I wanted, I've already got one. I don't need another one coming in and having no option to play him, because Kane will get injured at least 2 to 3 times per season where he's out for about 2 weeks at a time. Yeah. And it's just too much money for... And I think if City were going to get anyone, it's going to be Haaland if they're going to go and pay that 80 to 100 million pound price mark.
Yeah, I think a lot depends on Haaland and what happens there. I just feel like from Kane's perspective, it's almost... If you're going to leave Spurs, you want it to guarantee you competing, and you feel Man City the only team. Otherwise, you might as well stay at Spurs and just become a Spurs legend and break Jimmy Greaves' record and break Alan Shearer's record and just be loved by Spurs. But then it's almost a question of Kane's integrity and also of his ambition, because he said for the past 3-4 years, I want to compete, I want to win trophies, I want to do this. Well, now you're 27, 28, so now we really see, because if it's not Man City, then maybe, I know I've said about location and him being a London boy and whatnot, but maybe he will consider a Madrid or Barcelona. Maybe he'll say, cool, I'll just go there and I'll do it in Spain and win trophies on that level, or even Juventus. I think we'll learn a lot about Kane this summer and the sort of person he really is.
Yeah,
for sure. Aslan asked, and I guess we could just end this segment on this. But if you had to choose between Kane or Lewandowski, who would you want? All things considered, age, profile of the player, everything. And I'll give it to Harry first. I want to see what you have to say.
Well, I know I said one-off game, I'd start Lewandowski, but if I could sign someone, I'd sign Harry Kane for many reasons, but obviously because it would absolutely kill Spurs. So
Harry Kane up top with Xhaka in the midfield.
Oh, what a dream. Imagine football. What a dream. Stop it. Oh, God, that gets me excited. I never forget when we signed Sol Campbell. I think I must have been 15 or 16, and I remember running into our school common room around the pool table, and this was probably maybe just as the internet had started, so it was all about text message, and I got a text from my dad saying Sol's just signed. And to find out things back in those days, it wasn't a case of just going on your phone, Googling. It was ringing someone up, and I called my dad. I was like, Sol Campbell just signed. He went, yeah. I was like, no way. He was like, yeah. I was like, oh my God. So I ran into the common room. I was like, we just signed Sol Campbell. And all of my Spurs mates were like, no, you won't. And they were getting on their phone, phoning their dads or brothers. And I'm like, oh my God, you've just signed Sol Campbell. So if we could sign Harry Kane, it will never happen, but how amazing would that be? How amazing.
Yeah, for sure. SULZ, what do you think?
This is hard. I don't like Kane. I despise him so much. I just think he's a cheat. That's the only part. If he wasn't a cheat, I would love him at Arsenal. But saying that, I have to be honest, right? I've always said it. If we can get someone, Kane is an upgrade on Lacazette. Kane is like basically a better version of everything Lacazette's offered us, in a sense, especially this season. If you look at how Kane's developed his game, becoming kind of a playmaking striker, that's probably what I'd want. And I think Lewandowski is more of if you can give him the ball, he's pretty much going to finish it. They both offer good, but I think Kane just offers a little bit more to what we need right now. This breaks my heart, man. I can't even answer this. I don't even want to say it. I'd sign Kane. I don't say that with a lot of confidence. I'd sign Kane.
I love it. Well, I'm going to go against the grain here. I don't like this guy. I can't do it. I'm just going to be petty. It's just not, after this, bro. You can't come to Arsenal after doing that to my boy. All of that, I would. You can't do that after you do that to my boy. I can't. So I'm going to say Lewandowski. I don't even care if Lewandowski broke his leg a day after signing for Arsenal. I don't want Harry Kane anywhere near Arsenal. So that's just me. But we'll just stop it there for the Kane / Lewandowski conversation. You guys let us know in the chat box who would you sign, and if you think SULZ and Harry are traitors, for wanting Harry Kane at Arsenal. You heard it here first.
Can I
They
just
would
add, it
take
did
him.
break my heart saying that. Just
Yeah,
take
but
that.
I'm saying Kane for the misery it will cause Spurs fans. So if anything, I'm enhancing my love for Arsenal. I'm all about the misery of our rivals. That's why I'm signing Harry Kane. I'll sign any player from Spurs if it upsets Spurs. That's what I want to establish.
This is true. This is true. So let's talk a little bit about a player that personally I've always really liked. People don't know this about me. Much as I know that Chelsea is our rivals, I don't really care about them at all, if that makes sense. It's Spurs and Man United for me. I laugh when they cry. It makes me so happy. But Chelsea is just kind of like a nothing team for me. I know that they're good, whatever. They spend a lot of money. It is what it is. So when I watch them, sometimes I just watch them just because I think some of their players are good. And one of those is Mason Mount. I've always thought he was really good. And I couldn't understand why the Chelsea fan base didn't rate him. I don't know if it's just because they had brought in players like Kai Havertz and Werner and Ziyech, and they were over the academy kid and they wanted to see the shiny new, exotic import in that position. But I think he's proven last season and this season that he could be trusted in that position, and he's one of their most important players consistency wise. He's very good, very tenacious, gives 110%, plays for the badge, clearly loves the club. Those are things that you can't replace. It's like kind of what we have with Saka and Emil Smith Rowe. It's just different when they're your players, but it's funny to me how the narrative is kind of shifted, and now he's this great and wonderful player. But just a couple months ago when Frank Lampard was there, get him off the field, whatever. So SULZ, how do you feel about Mason Mount? I mean, he's been excellent for England, excellent for Chelsea. How do you feel about Mason Mount? Do you rate him? Do you think he's overrated, underrated? What are your thoughts?
I love Mount. If you're talking about any club outside of Arsenal, I absolutely love Mason Mount as a person, as a player, just everything. I think what it's what Yo-Yo said. It's basically because they didn't like Lampard and what Lampard was doing at Chelsea, and knowing that, he's Mount's kid, like he's Lampard's kid, this, that, the other, the golden kid. That's kind of just tarnished him, because for me, he's been one of the better performing youngsters within the league. I can't even believe that people don't put him in the conversation with Foden, Saka, Mason Greenwood, and people kind of disregard him. He's a 22-year-old kid who's absolutely taken over the league this season, even last season, to be fair, coming from Derby. And I think this is where I also kind of do think the reason is because out of all the top players, he's the only one to be loaned. And I think there's elements of people thinking, oh, no, because he done it at Derby doesn't make him good. Just because he done it under Lampard at Derby. And then he comes in, playing with a bunch of youngsters last season, and became one of the best youngsters in the league, in my opinion, last season, when they couldn't even buy anyone. So they didn't have the likes of Werner, Havertz, Ziyech, none of that. They couldn't buy anyone, and they were in turmoil. But yet this guy stood out to everyone. Coming into this season, why is Lampard and Tuchel, by the way, picking this kid over the new shiny toys? Like you said, Jess, like there's got to be a reason. Even when you look at him at Liverpool, scored the only and the winning goal in a fantastic way as well. The kid can do it all. He's passionate about the club, which is why we love Saka and Smith Rowe. He's got the ability. He's definitely going to have the ability. He's still obviously a developing kid who's going to learn his trade. But he's fantastic. I don't understand the hate that he gets. I don't understand why he's not. I think he's very underrated because no one really gives him the credit he deserves. He's going to be an England national, like definitely for the Euros. He's going to be the starting number 10 for me anyway. I believe that's what it should be. Even if you look at it this season, 6 goals, 6 assists in a struggling Chelsea side. He's scoring 5 of them in the league, assisting 4 of them in the league as well, in a team that can barely score goals. Is fantastic for the kid. 22 years old, come in with a lot of responsibilities, don't forget. He's basically been told by Lampard that I'm relying on you to take us in the previous season. This season, yes, he's had players come in, but even then, they've not lived up to their expectations, and he's the one who's having to drive this team forward. It's like, why do we rate Saka? Because Saka's basically made our season what it is. He's the reason why we even have any hope. That is Mount for them. Mount is the only reason I believe they're top 4, given other players as well. But he's one of the driving forces of that team.
For sure. Harry, what do you think about Mason Mount? Overrated, underrated, rated just right? Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say he's underrated from my perspective because I think he's brilliant. I think he might be a victim of his versatility because he does sometimes play, you know, centre midfield or left midfield, right midfield. So I think for Tuchel's first game, I believe he dropped Mount, or Mount wasn't starting, and then Mount came on, changed the game, and since then he's been ever present. And Southgate hinted at that, didn't he? He said something about, you know, when Lampard started him or something, he wasn't rated, but now Thomas Tuchel started him, everyone's talking about him. I just think he's a really good player. To play central midfield at that age and show good ball responsibility, to dictate play from deep and be effective further up, I think he's just class. And when we talk about the England team, I'm convinced he'll be one of the first names on the team sheet, along with Declan Rice. And if Jordan Henderson's fit for the Euros, that'll be the midfield 3. I think his ceiling is super, super high. The disrespect from Chelsea fans that's just modern day football at the moment, isn't it? Fans just want to get on someone's back. I think if he maybe looks a bit cooler and had longer hair and was maybe a little bit more flashy, he'd probably be getting the props that a Maddison or Grealish does. But because he's a little bit more simpler in his game, it kind of goes under the radar a little bit. But yeah, he's just such a talented boy, and to impose a game when you're that age, I just think it's remarkable. It's so hard to do that from a young age consistently and remain level-headed. And Sol's hinted at him being a nice kid. You know, someone like Guendouzi's got, you know, bags of ability, but if you don't have the right attitude and the right desire, you know, sometimes it doesn't work out for you. So Chelsea, yeah, are super lucky to have him, and I think he'll go on to do crazy things in the game. I'm not sure what he'll do numbers-wise, but in terms of goals and assists, sometimes what stats don't show you is just accountability and responsibility on the ball. A bit like Saka, you know, Saka's goals and assist numbers aren't crazy, but we know his importance in the team because of how often he drives with the ball, how often he's fouled, you know, how he keeps things ticking from that position. So, yeah, all respect to Mason Mount. Good luck to him.
Yeah, I think you need players like this. I think that the problem is that you're looking for, as you've already said, Harry, more of the flashy type players. I remember that somebody was saying that, you know, I know Saka's a good player, but he just doesn't get me off of my seat. You know, when he gets the ball, he just doesn't. And I'm like, that's because he's not flashy. That's because he's not like, I think Phil Foden is one of the best young players, you know, obviously in Europe. But I think it's because of the type of flair that he has. He has that more slick type of way of playing, where Saka's more industrial in a way. You know, he's more do the simple things well every single time. It doesn't really do anything super, no overhead kicks, no super flicks, no nothing like that, you know. So no, that doesn't get you off of your seat, but it's effective. And Mount to me is effective, you know, and he adds the working hard element, the never say die element, and that makes a good player. And you need that in a team full of, you know, Havertz type players, ZX, you know, as good as they are, you need somebody to ground you. And that's kind of what, to me, Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe do for us. And that's what it does for Chelsea with Mount. You know, you need those types of players. You can't go without them. You can't just have the flashy ones, you know. So I think
that's the problem. I think too many people are like highlight football, like fans. They're like, if there's a highlight moment, they'll remember it. Otherwise, they won't really know. It's just like with Martin Odegaard. The question in the fan base is like whether he's any good because he doesn't do anything spectacular. But I've always looked at football. Football is a simple game made complicated because what Mount does essentially is just takes things over. He's one of those players, you pass him the ball, he's barely going to make a mistake. He's actually going to make things happen for you. And that's the problem. People don't see that. They only see the goal scorer or the person who may have got the assist rather than the person who made that whole move happen in the first place. And that's kind of where the issue is. If you actually watch Mount play football, he's phenomenal. That's one player I would love at Arsenal right now.
Unfortunately, we don't get those types of players from Chelsea. We get
in about
the
10 years
leftovers.
time.
Yeah, about 10 years time, he'll be knocking on the door.
You know that chance when Harry Kane hit the bar? I think we already were 1-0 up. If you just watch that, it's Declan Rice gets the ball from deep or the halfway line. He drives it into Mason Mount. Mason Mount takes one touch, turns, plays it to Sterling. Sterling crosses it in. And it's just about, the simplicity in that is obvious to see, but without it, you just don't get those chances. Those positions he occupies on a pitch they're just worth their weight in gold. So I'm sure unless Grealish and Maddison finish the season incredibly strongly and do something to adjust Southgate's thinking, I'm pretty sure Mason Mount will be one of the first names on the team sheet.
And let me just say this really quick. I know people are saying like Saka is a flair player, but he's a flair player, this and that, but there's a big difference between players like Mason Mount and Saka and players like Grealish. Grealish is like a 100% creativity, get the ball, and he does what he wants to do based on what he's good at. He dictates the play. A lot of managers like Arteta, Pep, even Tuchel, they like players that follow directions. You have these pre-planned patterns of play that have to happen. They need to be perfect, spot on, done over and over and over again perfectly. And so, yes, of course, they can probably play a more flair style, more free-flowing style. But the way that managers want to play now, it's about doing what I told you to do and do it perfectly. And that's what Saka and Mount and players like that do. You need to have those types of players. I'm sure they can do more. And I feel like that's why Grealish is he's probably going to get chosen for the Euros, but he probably won't play because I figure Southgate will probably go for the safer option, the more industrial, I know what I'm going to get option. And that's going to be Mason Mount, Declan Rice, these types, Phillips, instead of your more flair players like Grealish. That's just how my mind works, but yeah, I think we're all in agreement that we all like Mount. We would take him at Arsenal, but we won't get him for 20 years. So, but you guys let us know in the chat box what you think about Mason Mount, if you rate him, if he's overrated, underrated, what you think. And so yeah, let's move to the AD Boothroyd issue. I'm not English, so it doesn't bear as much weight for me as it probably does for fans of England that are watching this guy just misuse this young talent. You look at the team sheet and you see Ben Godfrey, Emile Smith-Rowe, you see like Callum Hudson-Odoi. He has so much good talent, and then they go out there and they look like they've never kicked a ball in their lives. It's just strange. Like I'm watching Smith-Rowe and he looks lost, and I know that he knows what he's doing, but he just looks lost. What is the real issue here with England and the youth development in the England setup? Is this an issue? Is this something that needs to be repaired sooner rather than later? Because when are you going to get this type of crop of young talent again? SULZ, is it something that you worry about?
I'm very worried because I looked at that squad sheet before the sort of group stages kicked off, and I was massively excited. I was like, yeah, we've got to do so. And then I remembered AD Boothroyd is the manager. Then I remembered Gareth Southgate is the manager. I was like, yeah, it happens. This is the story of England. It's like we'll have brilliant players. We're coming into our second golden generation, and what's the one thing we're missing again? A quality coach. There's so many English coaches out there who can do a good job. Graham Potter, you've got the likes of Eddie Howe, you've got Emma Hayes, you've got even Frank Lampard could come and do a job with these players. There's so much crop of managers, but we always seem to be picking the wrong ones. What's AD Boothroyd's biggest accomplishment failing with Watford? What's Gareth Southgate's biggest accomplishment failing at Middlesbrough? Like, why are we getting failed coaches? England is a massive, massive footballing nation, and we can't attract good managers. Look at this team. Aaron Ramsdale, arguably one of the best goalkeepers in the league. You know, you've got Lloyd Kelly, who's an up-and-coming player. You've got Guhi, who's the academy player of Chelsea. Obviously, not many people know. Ben Godfrey, like, he's one of the best centre-backs within the league at Everton, been amazing this season. Max Aarons, the whole world is pretty much linked to him. You're looking at Dwight McNeil, who's, okay, yeah, that's one of the more, yeah, okay, you can have your thoughts on him. Oliver Skipp, a very good up-and-coming player. You've got Tom Davies, I don't rate highly. I think he's okay. Hudson Odoi, we know who he is. Eddie Nketiah, one of the best under-21s players in a very long time. Emil Smith-Rowe, and that's just the starting 11s that we played. Then you look on the bench, you've got Eze, Cantwell, Ryan Sessegnon, Gallagher, you've got Tanganga, Curtis Jones, Ryan Booster, Eze, again, like, look at that and look at who's using them. I'd rather someone like Emma Hayes comes in or Frank Lampard gets this opportunity, because we're not developing, and it's coming to show in the senior squad as well. I know we won our 2 games, but I was very disappointed. We should have done so much better than we actually did. When we look at it, we've not been able to score a goal. We've not had a goal. How shocking is that? Switzerland, and yes, I know they're good nations, but not getting a goal after creating like 7-8 chances per game, it's shocking. We seem like we go out there, you know, I'm one of those, I try and break tactically a team down. I can't figure it out myself. Looking at that team, I'm confused. I'm like, what are you? Like, I've spoken to so many people who have watched more under-21 games than I have. You know, they've watched more England games than I have, and they're all confused as well. We're like, we don't know. We genuinely don't have a frigging clue what system he's trying to play, what he's trying to do. We're playing weaker teams, and now we're in a situation where we have to win to proceed out of the group stages. England have to win a game to get out of the group stages. When's that ever happened? We're winning these competitions like it's a joke, and now we're coming into it. Oh, can we get out of the group stages? Like, I was so confident we would do a lot better than this. Not getting a goal is just shocking.
Yeah, that's the reality. I mean, no goals at all, you know, and didn't, like, at certain points in the Portugal game, I was like, are they going to touch the ball? Like, are they ever going to get, you know, possession of the ball? I thought Davies was poor, but I think he's not a great player anyway. No offense to him, but watched him at Everton. Don't rate him. Haven't seen enough of Oliver Skipp to know whether he's actually good or not. But regardless, I'm looking at that team sheet and I'm thinking they should be able to do more than lose both games and not score a goal. That's just unacceptable with no visible plan or way of playing. You know, Harry, I don't know if you watched the games or not, but how do you feel about the youth England setup and the full England setup with the first team? And does it give you hope that you have all this great talent? Like, is there something missing? Because I'm thinking, even though you have all this talent, is it going to come to fruition into the Euros and become something tangible, like a trophy or getting far in a tournament?
Yeah, well, just quickly back to Eddie Boothroyd. I think we got knocked out in the 2019 Euros in the group stages as well. And I was surprised that Boothroyd was given an extension, or, you know, carried on being a manager. I don't know if it's some sort of a system thing with the FA. It's like you have to, I don't know, like, if you tick this box, then you'll be under 21 coach for this period of time, and then you'll go on to this. It just feels a little bit weird when you mention there's so many exciting coaches out there. With regards to Gareth Southgate, I think the criticism of him is a bit harsh. I think he's actually made England a lot better in tournaments. I think he's made us a lot more organised, but still it's not exciting enough to watch, which I always think is the case with England. When you look at how we got knocked out in the under-21 tournament in 2019, the central midfield starting was James Maddison, Chowdhury and Phil Foden, with Solanke, Gray and Sessegnon. So, I mean, in terms of quality of this under-21 squad, I don't think it's good at all. Like, I just don't think it's good. I think we're talking about Nketiah. I mean, Nketiah just, you know, doesn't offer you anything unless a team creates a chance. And you're only going to create a chance if you can generate possession. And when you look at the two central midfielders, I mean, a central midfield is the heartbeat of any team. And if you have players that can't dictate a game from deep and influence the game and make forward passes like Granit Xhaka and Partey, you're going to struggle. And that's it. So regardless of Eze's and Hudson-Odoi's and Cantwell's, who are all great players, you have to get them the ball. Those players aren't going to come deep and get it. Maybe someone like Cantwell will. The best central midfielder in that team is Jones, and for some reason he didn't start the past couple of games. So I'm not surprised about the under-21s. I don't think it makes any difference in terms of the first team progression because, like I said, Maddison and Foden got knocked out for the under-21s a couple of years ago. And effectively they're on their way to the Euros this summer. I just think the great thing about under-21 football, the interesting thing is that if you're good enough, you won't be playing. And if you're okay to good enough, you will be playing. And then if you're definitely playing, it means that you are not good enough. There's all of these players, some of those players that you mentioned, they'll probably never go on to get a cap for England. You look at the likes of, I know when Southgate came in, he gave Nathan Redmond a cap. He gave a few other random players who had been in that under-21 circuit a long time. He gave them a cap as almost a reward, a thank you for their hard work. But under-21 football is a lottery. And some clubs like Spain will keep their best players playing it for as long as they can because they believe in that progression. And England maybe aren't good enough to leave a Foden or whoever it is, for under-21s. Maybe the England first team need them too much. So
that's what I was kind of really quick. I just want to say, that's really interesting because I always think about Eddie, and the reason why he's the highest scoring player for the under-21s is because he's not getting pulled up to the full national team. Yeah. I don't really think that much about the under-21s in terms of, I don't think it's that deep, but I can see where if they let it fester too long and they have coaches that don't know what they're doing, it can become an issue, because at some point the well will dry up. I know that you think that there's always going to be talent there, but there may not be, and this is probably your best chance. And when I look at Southgate, I think, okay, well, he's trying to make you guys obviously more solid, playing three at the back. He's trusting in some of the players that I think got to the semifinals or whatever the last tournament it was. A lot of them are still there. Those are the players that he trusts. But ultimately, what is the style of play? You're more solid, but what is the style of play? There's a lot of criticism about playing two DMs. Is that necessary to play two DMs?
Well, I think that was a circumstantial thing. I get why he would be criticised for that, but ultimately, when we go into those group stages, we're going to play with a Rice and probably a Henderson. That will always be the case. So for him, I think it's just about continuity of playing with two DMs, getting them used to finding the attacking players. Because of course, you could just probably play Foden and someone else in the middle and get away with it, but there's no longevity in that. I think he just wants to get used to everyone playing together. So I understand why he does that. I think I'd liken Southgate to Arteta in terms of what he's tried to do at England, which is change the philosophies, try and get rid of the cliques, try and get better squad harmony, get the country to identify with the national team, which I believe he did, in the last competition. Everyone enjoyed watching England again. So I feel like he's doing a decent job there. But ultimately, just like the under-21 tournament and similar to why Spurs struggle, when there's a narrative around your team, when there's a psychology of failure in your mindset and you can only get so far, it's so hard to erase that. And the reason why under-21s are probably going to go out this tournament is one, because they're not good enough, but also they've got the burden of the previous failings. And that is why it's so hard for England to overcome that. The only decent team we faced were Croatia in the semi-finals, and we couldn't get past them because psychologically it's too hard to overcome. Same as why Liverpool couldn't
Harry Kane was 25
years. Yeah, no, he was, but the same reason why Liverpool struggled for so long, even with good teams of Suarez, Coutinho, Gerrard, young Sterling, because they mentally it's on you. So I think Southgate's doing really well to try to almost forget about all those failings and just be like, right, we can go in a tournament and make an imprint. But that doesn't necessarily mean winning it, Jess. I mean, it's so hard. There's amazing teams. As long as we can continue that rise, I'd be happy with Southgate. But I agree, there's better coaches out there, but we had better coaches previously, right? Capello and Hodgson, or more experienced coaches, and they struggled. It's a poison chalice, that job. It's a really tough gig.
Yeah, I sympathize with what you say about the the ghosts of the failings, of the
And
past and all that kind of
that's why
stuff.
we need the under 21s to do better than they are, because they're the players who are then going to come in and I've always said winning breeds winning. If you can get that winners mentality within them at a young age, the thing is they're being breeded failure. None of them have really come on to, like, only Southgate is really coming to the under 21s that actually managed to gain some forms of success under them. That's what's going to start to then make this sort of what you say a poison chalice into something that can be done. Because if you think about the youth, is what you look at, half of those players are probably going to be called up into the Euros team. Like Godfrey's got a good chance, Aaron Ramsdale's probably going to get a good chance. But if all they've ever done with England is lose competitions and bottle it at the group stages, when they then come into the main setup, the pressure's intensified massively. We were all chanting "It's coming home" because we genuinely believe that the whole nation. You could see Twitter, like England Twitter, was just on a frenzy. It was. I can tell you one thing. It was. If you wanted to be anywhere in the world at that time, you've got to be at England, mate. The pubs, the streets were banging.
Yeah, it was. And do you know what, Jess? The weather was really good that summer as well.
Yeah,
The weather for the Euros. Yeah, honestly, it was never been so hot for like 2 months. I was like, oh my God, like England's changed because of the football. Like the positivity of football.
I've never been, and it's been like where you could just wear a t-shirt. I've never felt that before. I've always had a jacket. I'm like, I don't trust this place.
So you're right about winning breeds winning. And when we speak about the ghosts of the past, we had that for 10 years, didn't we, at Arsenal under Wenger not winning a trophy. And then when we won the FA Cup, I'm sure, Arteta came out in his interview saying, hopefully this is the start of many. So obviously it doesn't guarantee anything, but you're right. If they can do it from a young early age, then it certainly helps them. So when they're in the Euros, and there's a big penalty or there's a free kick, and they've got those reference points of previous success to look back on, I think it does help. But ultimately, like I say, that under 21 squad, there are a few good players in there, but I mean it's dog average. If Nketiah hasn't played for us for months and he's starting for England under 21.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I think Green was meant to be the starting, and then obviously he was pulled out due to an injury. But yeah, I just think, I know what you're saying about it being a poor team, but I just think they should be doing better than what they are.
Oh, 100%. But that's the same for the England golden generations. They always should have been doing better. For some reason, it just doesn't seem to click.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely, even, I watched the under 21s and I was like, wow, this is not what I expected based on, the team sheet and all that kind of stuff. And really, I was only watching for Smith Rowe and Eddie, but still, but what you guys say about, the ghosts of failures past and all that kind of stuff is really, really true. The same thing happened with the U.S. youth team yesterday when they didn't qualify for the Olympics. This is the third time running that we haven't qualified. And it's just, I think that fear of the failure and repeating it, just, it messes you up. You need to see some sort of some change, and they just didn't have it. So I do believe in that 110%, but looking at even other teams, England to me, I think has enough talent to do well in the Euros, but we know that it's not always about the talent on paper. It's about the teams clicking. I look at teams like, Spain and Germany that have been together for quite a bit of, they have, relationships. Some of those players have been there for a long time, but, maybe they're kind of off the boil. And then you see some newcomers, like Portugal, that have great team on paper, should be doing well, but maybe they're more dark horses. I'm not sure. There's quite a bit of teams. You could talk about Belgium. I think that they have the most complete team, but when I watch them, sometimes I'm like, they're not really putting 4 and 5 past people, which I feel like they should be for some reason. So for you, SULZ, who do you think has the best chance of maybe getting to the final for the Euros based on what you've seen so far?
Yeah, I've been there. When you told me about this is what we're going to be talking, it's difficult. Because like you said, there's so many talented teams out there. The qualifiers and the sort of friendlies are nothing to go off. Because they're not going to play with full intensity because they've got club football to go back to. Yeah. When it comes to the Euros, that's when they're going to give it their all, because some of them are probably going to be playing for moves. They know they've got especially not immediately anyway. They're not going to need to go back into club football. It's going to be a month or two before they even have any competitive games to go back. I just think for me, I'm looking at that France squad and I can't look past it. Like,
Yeah.
I just think they're going to come in and absolutely dominate this tournament once again. They've got one of the biggest squads and depth. And even if you look into their bench, you're like, oh, for God's sake, they can bring anyone on that can change the game. And they're just as good as what they've got on the pitch. You've got Paul Pogba, Kante, you've got Griezmann, you've got even Olivier Giroud. And even if you didn't want to bring him on, Martial, they can even call on Lacazette if they needed to. It's hard to look past the talent that they've got at the minute. And I think, like you said, continuity of their team as well. They're going to bring a lot of the World Cup winners and the Euros winners of the past into this team. They've done it. They're probably the most confident team going into this. I like the look of Germany. I just don't think Portugal... I don't know with Portugal, because I feel like there's a lot of individuals in that team, and there could be a moment in a game where that individuality comes out, and there could be a bit of an ego situation where they should have passed it instead of shooting. And I feel like Portugal would make that mistake more than a lot of the other teams would. And then, so for me, if I was looking at a realistic finalist and saying that, forgetting about all the tree path and all of this, I think for me, it's going to be between France and probably Germany.
That's interesting. What about you, Harry? What would, just, shot in the dark. What do you think if you had to call it right now, the final of the Euros?
Yeah, I'd go with Germany. I'm not sure about France, to be honest. I think they've got a few players who are quite hot and cold in Dembele, Martial, Griezmann. I feel like they're sometimes quite inconsistent. I think a good outside shout is someone like Poland or Portugal. I know France won it previously, but when you look at the year that Portugal won it, it's just about being hard to beat and winning 1-0 or winning 2-1 or whatever. It's not about sometimes, the names on the team sheet as such. So I fancy Germany just because I think they're all-rounded, and Sane looks like he's back to his best. Obviously, Gundogan at Man City has just found a new level, scored the other night for them. But I think someone like Poland is a good shout, just for, solid at the back and Lewandowski as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them progress. And you never know, England might be in a shot. You never know. We could do it.
For sure. It really depends on what side of the tournament you're on. It's just like every other tournament. If you get on the easier side of the brackets, you can make, and they put everybody else on the other side, then it really just depends. But if I just had to have like a shot in the dark, even just to say who would win the Euros, it's probably Arsenal. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding. Not Arsenal.
Do you know what? I forgot about Belgium. Obviously, Belgium.
It's difficult. It's difficult. I think if I had to just guess, I'd say France and Belgium. To me, I have a feeling about both teams. I think when you have Kevin De Bruyne, Lukaku, to me, he doesn't get enough praise. He's much better than people give him credit for. And if they can get that little chunky butt Hazard out there at some point, then they might be able to do something. But even his brother is really good. They have his chunky butt. Yeah, he needs to lay off the cheeseburgers. I don't know what's going on with him. He's never fit. He has injuries, never fit, but he's still one of the best players in the world when he's on form. You have Jan Vertonghen, Toby Alderweireld, two players that have played together for eons, and still are pretty good players. You have so much talent. Tielemans, he's in there as well. They brought Dendoncker in. I like that team. They don't really put 5 or 6 pass people, but I don't think that that's what you need to be good. Continuity is really important when you're playing in national teams. You don't play with each other all the time. I think them and France have the best chance for me. And AK Gunner says Portugal or France to win the Euros for me, but there's a question. Would I rather the US win the World Cup or Arsenal win the Champions League? Let's be real. Arsenal win the Champions League. That would be it for me. I could just go and rest then. Put me in my coffin. I'm good. I don't need to see anything else anymore, because I don't know if we're ever going to see it. So if it happens, it happens. That would be awesome. Sean Sean says Portugal looks really scary. I think I feel like they're more scary on paper than they are in real life. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I agree.
Spain beginning to gel. I think Spain is
They're
such
just lacking quality for me, though. I think there's just that it's hard to explain, but like with Spain, if Ansu Fati comes back in, I honestly would give them a shout because I just think he's something different. Like I've not seen a youngster be this good in a very long time. But for me, I just don't think they've got that cutting edge that they always had. This sort of difference to them, this sort of USP that they've always had. So I just don't see it with Spain, and it's the same with Belgium. They just don't seem to have the bottle to actually go past certain stages in tournaments. They seem to get somewhere and look like they're looking like finalists now, but then just bottle it like they did against, I believe it was Croatia that they played, and no, they played France, sorry, and they were never going to beat France, and that's the problem. If they come across someone like that, they just don't seem to be able to beat them. They
came up against the eventual winners of the World Cup, but I get what you're saying, like 110%. I just think you have Kevin De Bruyne, you have Lukaku, they have a really, really good side. And I feel like the continuity is better than Spain and is probably a little bit better than Germany, but that's just my general feeling. I agree with the Spain thing. I think they're always going to have quality in terms of technical ability. They're always going to have like an abundancy of talented players. But do they have a player like Mbappe that can just kill you off, like from individual talent? Not really. I mean, they had Murata out there. That was kind of who is there? That's the thing about Spain. They never really have like a killer striker, really.
Oh, they don't.
Yeah, but
they've had a few. They've had a few.
Negredo, a few. Diego Costa was in and out. I think Torres started the other night for them, didn't he? And obviously he hasn't had a lot of PL minutes. I just looked at Portugal's team again. Portugal do have a frighteningly good team as well.
Yeah.
That Ruben Diaz at the back with Cancelo is class as well. And I know Fonte's been around the block, but international football is weird. You see these 34-year-old, 35-year-old centre backs have absolutely incredible tournaments. I don't know if anyone remembers Gary Breen for Ireland, maybe like 15, 16 years ago. He had an incredible tournament. I think Inter Milan were going to buy him off the back of that, but it fell through. So, Portugal did look good, but like you say...
What about Italy, you guys? Like, they're saying Italy, they're saying Turkey. I know Turkey is...
I think that dark horses.
Dark horses, okay, yeah. And we'll obviously see about, all those things when they come about,
I just don't rate that Italy team anymore. I just don't think they've got anything that I look at and think, oh, crap. Like Italy in the past were always that team that you wanted to thrive to be, but they're not anymore. They're the talent hasn't been there recently, and I think there's just too many teams that are more experienced in competitions together. And I think that's just what's going to be the undoing of Italy.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely have some talent, but not enough for me to feel like, unless they got on in the easier side of the bracket and the bracket didn't have anything on it and they could just kind of, bumble their way through, but I don't really see it for them either, to be honest, But yeah, Turkey for sure, dark horses. And like we've already said, Belgium, England, Portugal, France, Germany.
There's a lot of good teams. There's a lot of good teams this year, a lot of good teams. So hopefully they meet each other early in the knockout stages and it opens up a path for someone. You never know. International football is strange, and sometimes a team that you don't think, will cause an upset, they do. Those teams that play personality and, that freedom, sometimes they're the teams that do really, really well. And the teams that we expect to do well, like Belgium and Germany, sometimes, they struggle. So it really does depend on the tournament. There's a World Cup next year as well, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Or next winter, yeah.
Yeah, AFCON as well is coming up too. A lot of our players did qualify for that, so that's something to look out for. And I think that's important when we're looking at just even as a sidebar, recruitment wise, recruiting. I don't know, did Mali, did they qualify for AFCON? Because if they did, then you're looking at, and we were to get Basuma, you're looking at Thomas Partey, El Neni, Basuma all out, for a significant amount of time. I don't know that the AFCON thing is as much as it's throwing my mind how many tournaments are coming up, how little rest these players are going to get. It's kind of brutal.
That's the big thing, Jess, is about player welfare as well. And when we talk about players like Saka and whatnot, and Greenwood, whoever it is, that might be pushing for that Euro 21 spot, I think Southgate has to pick really carefully. Because if you take someone like Saka to the Euros, but you're not going to start him and you just want to use him as an impact player, you've got to think about all the minutes he's played for Arsenal. You've got to think about the minutes he can play for England. He's then going to have a short pre-season break, go straight into a full season for England, then play for Arsenal, then play for England again in the World Cup. So it's about maybe Southgate assessing who he's got and maybe staggering the inclusion of Foden and Mount and Maddison and Grealish and Saka and all of these young players. It might have to be something they consider, because it's a hell of a lot of football for these players to be playing. But I'm sure Southgate will just pick the best squad, because no one really cares about their players' clubs today. No. Yeah, exactly. So it's a cutthroat, but yeah,
for sure. Well, you guys, we have covered everything that we wanted to cover on today's show. We talked about everything but Arsenal, really, so but this is my one international show talking about this. I'm not talking about this anymore. That is so boring.
But to bring it back to Arsenal, you said about the AFCON, obviously, if we get Basuma, then Marley won't be here, Partey won't be here, and then he won't be here, which means Granit Xhaka is as important as ever for Arsenal, because he will be our only remaining central midfielder. So spare a thought for Granit Xhaka, because he will have to hold central midfield down on his own. Good times.
Can I just say, literally on a sidebar, I had one of the worst conversations about Granit Xhaka on Twitter the other day. Just this weird thing about he's the worst player in the world thing. It blows my mind, and it's just not true. And even with all the data and statistics that are out there that say that he's actually a very good midfielder in terms of, in comparison to the other midfielders in the league. He's not world class, but he's not. Yeah. We live on a world of absolutes. It's like you're either world class or the worst thing that ever walked the earth. It's just crazy to me. Worst conversation I've ever had. It wasn't even a conversation. It was just, wow, are you serious? Apparently I have embarrassing views, and I'm a Xhaka fanboy. I'm a girl. How I'm not a fanboy. I don't even love this guy, but I mean, come on, let's just be real. He also plays every day for Switzerland, plays every day for us, played under every single Arsenal manager, but that don't mean anything. But yeah, you guys, Arsenal content coming this week. We're not going to be talking about international football anymore. Clive from Arsenal Vision will be on tomorrow. We'll be talking about tactics and scouting, how the tactics have evolved from Arteta's first year to his second year as the Arsenal manager. And we're going to be scouting a couple of different players that Clive thinks would be good for the evolution of Arsenal in the future. And then on Wednesday, Elliot from Arsenal Vision will be on. We're going to be analyzing Arteta and Arsenal and the progression and how we see it. We'll talk about numbers and things like that. And also be doing a match preview with Hardcore Football. It's two Americans. One is an Arsenal fan and one is a Liverpool fan. So we'll be doing a match preview, and we'll get all into, what's going on with Liverpool, what's going on with Arsenal, and preview the game. So, yeah. You guys, this is a great show. Can you let everybody know where you'll be? Gooner, SULZ, tell everybody what you're going to be doing this week. Anything special or?
Yeah, just click on a video. I'll probably be there at this rate. I don't even know what I've said yes and no to. But yeah, no, you can find me on Gooner SULZ or at Leicester Bay Footy. You can find me on, obviously, pretty much on the platform now, because obviously me and Tanner are going to be working closely on a few new content. And yeah, there's a lot of exciting things coming. There's a new show that's been launched, which I'm really excited about. I've got a few guests coming on that. If you guys want to ever know how to get into kind of football, or if you're ever looking at presenting or interviewing, I've got a new show that's been launched essentially now. And that's kind of what it is. It's a life advice video for people who maybe don't understand or don't know or kind of lost in life, just to kind of guide you through.
That's awesome. Yeah, so you guys make sure that you guys are following SULZ on you know, the internet and subscribe to his channel so that you don't miss any of his videos. DJ Harry, where can everybody find you?
Twitter at it's DJ Harry and Instagram at it's DJ Harry. I've got nothing that exciting planned for the next few weeks, but I'm going to be sunbathing in the garden quite a lot if the sun stays out. So catch me in the garden, hopefully getting a tan.
This is going to sound so weird, but like, even I was talking to SULZ about this. It's just a side note. When you guys say diary, I think of Dear Diary. Da, 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 da. John said hello to you today by the locker. Like, you know, that's what I think you guys are thinking about, like your calendar.
Yeah, you proper got a Gossip Girl vibe on this, don't you?
Yes. And when you guys say garden, I'm thinking about a garden with flowers. We say backyard, you know, so.
Oh, backyard sounds a little bit like dirty, doesn't it? Like, oh, I'm in my backyard.
In England, that would not.
Yeah.
I guess if you come here, do not tell anyone you want to. You know, it's got a different meaning here.
Okay, so not going to say backyard when I come to England. And if you guys don't know, if you guys are not following DJ Harry, please follow him on Twitter. It is the official Granit Xhaka fan club. So when you go there, you have to join the membership and make sure that you are able to, you know, put out positive vibes about Granit Xhaka. But you guys, this has been a great show, and I'll see you guys on the next one tomorrow at 6 p.m. UK time with Clive. And yeah, bye guys. Wow, I never have this up.